Welcome back to our deep dive into the power of your subconscious mind. We're picking up where we left off, but after finishing those first 5 chapters, I got to say I was pretty amazed by what I was reading.
Yeah, me too. You really start to see just how much your subconscious is running the show,
Yeah.
like all the time without us even realizing it, right?
It's kind of freaky when you think about it. So for anyone just joining us for this second part, I think it helps to do a quick recap of what we talked about last time. It's like, learning a new language, like the language of our minds.
Exactly.
So we started with that basic distinction between the conscious and the subconscious. It's like, the pilot and the autopilot.
Oh, that's a good analogy.
Right. So the conscious mind, that's us making decisions, thinking things through. But the subconscious, that's where our habits, our beliefs, our instincts, all that stuff lives. And it doesn't really distinguish between what's real and what we just imagine.
Right. Which is a pretty crazy thought when you think about it.
It is. And it explains why just thinking about something you don't like, say, I don't like mushrooms, can trigger a physical reaction. Remember that story from the book about the woman who visualized her ideal partner?
Oh, yeah.
And then she actually met someone almost exactly like that.
It's amazing, isn't it? That's the power of the subconscious in action.
It's wild. But we were just getting started, right? Because those first 5 chapters, those were like the basics, the foundation. Chapters 6 through 10, those are where things get really interesting, really practical in terms of how we can use all this knowledge. You ready to jump in?
Oh, absolutely. These are the chapters that I've dog-eared and highlighted like crazy.
You too. So chapter 6 kicks off with this whole idea of suggestion, how words and imagery can bypass our conscious mind and go straight to the subconscious.
It's fascinating, isn't it? Our subconscious is like a sponge, absorbing suggestions all the time, whether we realize it or not.
And the book gives those examples, right? Like, remember that one about the guy who gets seasick just because someone mentions it?
Oh, yeah, the timid passenger.
Yeah. But the same suggestion wouldn't bother a seasoned sailor because, I guess, they've got different subconscious beliefs. So it's not just about the suggestions themselves. It's about how our subconscious filters those suggestions through our existing beliefs.
It's like, you can give two people the exact same suggestion, but they'll respond in totally different ways based on what their subconscious already believes, right?
Exactly.
Oh.
So the key is to become aware of those beliefs we're carrying around and start replacing those negative ones with positive ones.
Yeah, like replacing that I can't with I can.
I like that. And that actually leads us perfectly to the next chapter, which is all about the role of belief in healing.
Oh, this is one of the most mind-blowing chapters for me. It suggests our subconscious can actually trigger physical healing based on what we believe.
I know, it sounds crazy, but they have all those examples. Think
Mhm.
about those people who experience these miraculous healings at, religious shrines, like Lourdes.
Right.
It's not necessarily the water or the place itself, but their belief in its power.
Right. That's what makes the difference, isn't it?
It's like if someone believes a sugar pill will cure their headache, their subconscious might actually make it happen.
It's wild. And the book even has that story of the man who was cured of tuberculosis with a piece of wood he thought was from the true cross. But it wasn't even real.
Oh, wow.
It shows how powerful belief combined with imagination can be in the healing process.
Really powerful stuff. But I'm curious, how does prayer fit into all this? I always thought prayer was about talking to a higher power.
Yeah, I used to think that way too, but the book presents this really interesting perspective on prayer as communicating with our own subconscious minds.
Well, interesting, you mean like impressing our deepest desires and beliefs onto our subconscious.
Exactly. And when that intention is combined with unwavering belief, it can lead to some pretty powerful results. Remember that story about the man who was healed of paralysis?
Oh, through his minister's prayer.
Yes. It wasn't just the words spoken, but the belief behind them.
Yeah. So it seems like belief is that common thread running through all these examples, whether it's belief in the power of suggestion or belief in healing or belief in prayer.
It all comes back to belief, doesn't it? It's like the fuel that powers the subconscious mind.
But what about those of us who struggle with doubt? How do we cultivate that kind of deep-seated belief when our minds are full of what-ifs and skepticism?
Well, that's a great question. And actually, a perfect segue into the next chapter, which is all about harnessing the subconscious for success. It provides some really practical techniques for aligning our conscious and subconscious minds to achieve our goals, regardless of, how much doubt we might have.
Oh, that's helpful.
Yeah,
So we can actually learn to work with our doubts.
absolutely. The book talks about the power of visualization, affirmations, and choosing to focus on what we want rather than what we fear. It's about taking control of our thoughts and directing them towards our goals.
It's like we're learning how to reprogram our own internal operating system.
Exactly.
And the book mentions that mental movie method, right?
Yes,
Yeah.
where you basically create this vivid image in your mind of your desired outcome and you replay it over and over like a movie.
And that helps to impress it on your subconscious so it can start working towards making it happen.
Exactly. The book is full of examples of people who have used this technique to achieve incredible things, landing their dream job, finding love, even healing themselves.
It really is about consciously directing our subconscious mind towards a specific goal.
That's the key, isn't it? We have all this creative power inside of us, but we have to learn how to use it effectively.
It's like we're speaking a whole new language, the language of the subconscious.
Exactly.
So we've talked about suggestion, belief, healing, prayer, and even success. There's so much more to unpack in these chapters. But before we move on, I'm curious to hear what's been resonating with you so far. Have there been any aha moments or insights that have really surprised you? Share your thoughts with us.
It's funny, when you start thinking about the subconscious, it seems like there are just so many different ways that you can try to work with it.
I know, right? It's a lot to take in.
It is, but I think that's what makes this book so fascinating. It's not just about achieving a specific goal. It's about cultivating a deeper sense of peace and well-being in our lives.
That's a good point. And speaking of well-being, the next chapter is all about sleep. I'll admit, this is the one that really surprised me. I always thought sleep was just about giving our bodies a rest, but it turns out it's much more than that.
Oh, yeah. Sleep is crucial for our mental and emotional health, too. It's actually when our subconscious mind can really come forward and do its work.
Oh, so there's more going on while we're sleeping than we realize.
Absolutely. It's like our conscious mind takes a back seat and our subconscious has the stage all to itself. And that's when, we can process emotions, work through problems, come up with new ideas, you name it.
I've definitely had those moments where I wake up with a solution to a problem that's been bugging me. Like my subconscious was working on it all night long.
I know exactly what you mean. And the book have all these amazing stories of people who've solved complex problems or, had incredible creative breakthroughs during their sleep. It's a reminder that sometimes, the best way to find an answer is to stop overthinking it and let our subconscious mind take over.
You mean just sleep on it?
Exactly. And the book also highlights the negative effects of not getting enough sleep. It can lead to irritability, poor memory, impaired judgment, all sorts of things.
Wow. So if I want to tap into the power of my subconscious, getting enough sleep is non-negotiable.
Pretty much. A well-rested mind is just more receptive, more creative, and better equipped to deal with whatever life throws at us. And speaking of challenges, the next chapter goes into how we can use our subconscious to break those negative habits we all have.
Okay, that's something I definitely need help with. I have a few bad habits I wouldn't mind getting rid of.
Yeah, well, this chapter presents a really empowering perspective. It explains that our subconscious mind is responsible for our habits, both the good and the bad ones.
I see. So if you're constantly telling yourself, I'm not good enough, you need to start replacing those thoughts with more positive affirmations, like I am capable, I am worthy, that sort of thing.
Exactly. It's about shifting that internal dialogue, going from self-sabotage to self-empowerment. And the book has some really cool examples of people who have done just that. Remember the story about that businessman who overcame his jinx of client cancellation?
Oh, yeah, that's right. He changed his thinking and things totally turned around. It's amazing how much power our thoughts have over our experiences.
I know. And that power extends to our emotions, too. Which brings us to the next chapter. It's all about overcoming fear through the subconscious.
Oh, this is a big one. I mean, fear can be so paralyzing, right?
It can be, but the good news is that the book reminds us that most of our fears, they're learned, not innate. That means we can unlearn them.
So it's not like we're stuck with them forever.
Nope. And the book outlines some really practical techniques for doing that, like visualization is a big one. Imagine yourself successfully doing the thing you're afraid of, over and over again. You're basically giving your subconscious a new script to follow.
Oh, okay. So if I'm afraid of spiders, I should, I don't know, visualize myself calmly watching a spider without freaking out.
Exactly. It's about gradually desensitizing your subconscious to that fear trigger. The more you do it, the more your subconscious mind starts to believe the new story you're telling it.
This is really empowering stuff. It's like we're getting a crash course in how to control our minds. But, it's not always easy to stay motivated and keep those negative thoughts and fears at bay. Like, how do we cultivate that inner strength and resilience?
Well, that's where the final chapter in this section comes in. It's all about finding happiness and peace through the subconscious.
Okay, so I'm hearing this and I'm wondering, is this getting a little too much into self-help territory? Like, can we just think our way to happiness?
I mean, it's not quite as simple as that, but the book does emphasize that true happiness comes from within. It comes from aligning our conscious and subconscious minds with the principles of, harmony and peace.
Oh, okay. So it's not about relying on things outside of ourselves to make us happy.
Exactly. It's about cultivating that positive inner state, regardless of what's happening around us. And the book suggests some practices for doing that, like gratitude is a big one. Instead of focusing on what's wrong, we can actively look for things to be thankful for.
Right? Like keeping a gratitude journal. That can be really helpful.
Oh, for sure. And there's also that practice of, focusing on the good in ourselves and others. Like instead of dwelling on our flaws and shortcomings, we can choose to acknowledge and appreciate our strengths and the positive qualities of the people around us.
So it's about choosing to focus on the positive, both in ourselves and in the world around us.
Exactly. And the more we do that, the more we train our subconscious mind to see the good, to expect the best, and to create a more positive and fulfilling reality.
This has been an amazing exploration of the power of the subconscious mind. I mean, we've talked about breaking free from negative patterns, overcoming challenges, creating a more fulfilling life.
I know, right? And we've only just scratched the surface. There's still so much more to discover.
Okay, so before we move on to that final section, I want to hear from you. What has resonated with you the most? What insights or techniques are you most excited to try out? Share your thoughts with us. Welcome back for the final part of our deep dive into the power of your subconscious mind. I feel like we've uncovered so much already. From the power of suggestion and belief to the importance of sleep and how to form better habits, it's incredible to think we all have this power within us, just waiting to be unleashed.
It really is. And, we've saved a really powerful topic for last, forgiveness. This one really stood out to me. It goes way beyond those typical, feel-good messages about forgiveness and really delves into how it can profoundly impact us on a subconscious level.
Okay, I'm intrigued because I have to admit, when I hear the word forgiveness, I usually think of it as something we do for someone else, like to help them or let go of whatever happened. But this book is saying it's more about us, isn't it?
Exactly. The book makes this point that forgiveness isn't about condoning whatever happened or letting someone off the hook. It's about releasing ourselves from those negative emotions that can really do a number on us.
Oh, okay. So it's not about them at all. It's about us freeing ourselves from that, you know, anger, resentment, the bitterness.
Precisely. Holding on to those negative emotions, it's like we're creating this blockage in our own subconscious. It prevents, I guess you could say it prevents the free flow of positive energy, and it can actually even lead to physical problems.
Wow. It's almost like we're poisoning ourselves with our own negative thoughts.
That's a great way to put it. The book really stresses this idea that forgiveness is an act of self-healing. Holding on to anger and resentment, in the end, it hurts us more than it hurts anyone else.
And the book shares examples of people whose lives changed because they learned to forgive, right?
Yes. There's this story about a woman who was constantly butting heads with her coworkers, and instead of trying to, change them or confront them, she just decided to start praying for them.
Oh, wow. And what happened?
Well, just that shift in her thinking led to a huge improvement in her relationships at work. It's amazing how powerful changing our internal dialogue can be. It really does affect our external reality.
That's incredible. And I think there was another example, right, about a salesman who was having issues with his boss.
Yes, he was carrying so much resentment and it was really affecting him. But when he made a conscious choice to forgive his boss and focus on his positive qualities, well, everything started to shift for him. He found more success. He felt better. It was like a complete turnaround.
So if we're struggling to forgive someone, it's not necessarily about confronting them or trying to force them to change.
Right. Forgiveness is an inner process. It's about making peace with the past, letting go, and moving on with, a more positive outlook.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
But is there a right way to forgive? Does the book suggest anything specific?
Well, there's no one-size-fits-all approach, but The book highlights the importance of being sincere, really wanting to let go of those negative feelings. And it suggests using affirmations and visualizations, kind of like we talked about earlier, to reprogram the subconscious with thoughts of compassion and understanding.
So if you're really struggling, you can try visualizing yourself, I don't know, sending love and light to that person. Or maybe repeat affirmations like, I release all anger and resentment.
Exactly. Those are great examples. It's about consciously shifting that mental focus, going from judgment to compassion.
I think this is a really important message, especially these days.
Right.
It's so easy to get caught up in negativity and anger, but forgiveness can be so powerful, not just for ourselves, but also for our relationships, maybe even the world as a whole.
Couldn't agree more. It's about creating that ripple effect of peace and harmony, right? And speaking of creating ripples, the book actually ends with a really interesting thought. Age is just a number.
Wait, really? How does forgiveness tie into age?
It's not directly related to forgiveness, but it's part of this broader message about the potential of the human mind. The book basically says we should reject those limiting beliefs society often holds about aging. It encourages us to embrace the idea that we can keep growing and learning and contributing at any age.
So we don't have to slow down and fade away just because we get older.
Not at all. The book has so many examples of people who achieve amazing things later in life. It's like a reminder that our minds don't have an expiration date.
That's a great way to put it. This deep dive has been such an incredible journey. We've explored the power of our subconscious minds to, heal, overcome challenges, achieve our goals, find happiness, learn to forgive, even defy those limitations that come with age.
It's been an amazing journey for me, too. I really hope our listeners have been inspired by all of this, to tap into their own potential.
If there's one thing I've taken away from all this, it's that we're so much more powerful than we realize. Our subconscious minds are this vast, untapped resource.
And the key is to become aware of those thoughts, beliefs, those habits, and learn to align them with, what we want to achieve.
So well said. And to everyone listening, the next time you find yourself facing a challenge or maybe you feel stuck, just remember the incredible power of your subconscious mind. It's there to guide you, support you, and help you achieve those dreams.
Keep exploring, keep experimenting, and most importantly, keep believing in the incredible power that's within each of us.